Tudo que é feito em Game of Thrones tem uma consequência. Pode não vir na cena seguinte, no episódio seguinte, mas o que você fez vai voltar de algum jeito. E Jaime talvez seja o cara que mais sofre com isso. Tido como vilão de primeira, ele é o símbolo da culpa, do castigo e da redenção. E estes são os temas deste nosso novo episódio no especial sobre Game of Thrones. A moralidade é sempre questionável em Game of Thrones, e talvez essa dúvida é o que faça a gente se encantar e ter tanta empatia por alguns personagens na série.
When we meet Jaime first in episode 1, he's a Kingsguard. He's guarding Robert Baratheon, who's the king, who's also married to Cersei, Jaime's sister. What we don't know in the beginning of the episode is that Jaime also has an intimate relationship with his sister. Cersei and Jaime found this place where no one's around, and they have a very intimate moment, which is suddenly destroyed.
Stop!
Jaime makes a very quick decision that no matter what, this kid cannot be allowed to tell anyone what he's just witnessed.
The things I do for love.
Na verdade, a gente relativiza a maioria das atitudes dos personagens. E isso tudo acontece por um motivo. Um personagem é pior do que o outro. Por exemplo, o Ramsay, que é um cara detestável, ele é pior do que o Jaime, que começou como um vilão e depois termina praticamente como um herói. Mas, por sua vez, o Jaime é pior do que o Ned, que é um sujeito de posição inquestionável, mas que começou a série matando um desertor e tem atitudes, digamos, duvidosas no passado.
You are a man without honor.
I've never been with any woman but Cersei. So in my own way, I have more honor than poor old dead Ned. Now when good old Ned came home with some horse baby, did you pretend to love it? No. You're not very good at pretending. You're an honest woman. You hated that boy, didn't you? How could you not hate him? The walking, talking reminder that the Honorable Lord Eddard Stark fucked another woman. He's taken by the Starks. He has to find a way to escape and get back to Cersei. He makes a deal with Catelyn Stark. He promises that he will do everything he can to protect her daughters in exchange for his freedom. So she pairs him up with her knight, Brienne of Tarth, who's gonna escort him back.
Has anyone ever told you you're as boring as you are ugly?
You will not provoke me to anger. I already have. Look at you.
One thing Jaime's very good at, he's very good at sniffing out people's weaknesses. He wants her to lose it with him so that he will get the opportunity to get out of his chains and get rid of her. And then they reach this bridge, and finally he gets the opportunity. It's unbelievable. He goes from one bad situation to a horrible situation.
Looks like your woman's getting the better of you.
You sure he's the one?
That's him, all right. Let us go. My father will pay you whatever you want.
Enough to buy me a new head?
One of the reasons he's so arrogant is that he was a prodigy, not just that he is the scion of the wealthiest family in Westeros, and which would probably lead to some degree of arrogance, but also he was better at sword fighting than almost anyone alive, and became the youngest member of the Kingsguard, and was a legendary fighter and champion. And so even if people hated him, they had to respect him because he was really good at what he did. And then he loses that.
You're nothing without your daddy. Your daddy ain't here. Never forget that. Yeah, this should help you remember.
Jaime losing his hand is a classic George maneuver, and it was a very intelligent and very interesting move on George's part, because it's killing a person while leaving him alive and walking. It's taking away the root of someone's identity and ripping the ground out from under them and stealing everything that defines them with one chop of a carving knife.
There it is. That's the look. Seen it for 17 years and face after face. You all despise me. Kingslayer. Oathbreaker. Man without honor. You heard of wildfire?
Of course.
The Mad King was obsessed with it. He loved to watch people burn. He told me to bring him my father's head. Then he turned to his pyromancer. Burn them all, he said. Tell me if your precious Randy commanded you to kill your own father and stand by while thousands of men, women, and children burned alive, would you have done it? Would you have kept your oath then? First I killed the pyromancer, and then when the king turned to flee, I drove my sword into his back.
I think the great reveal of that scene is that Jaime was actually heroic in that moment and actually was saving lives. And because of his pride, he's never really tried to defend himself. He's endured his legacy being slandered, and that's poisoned him in some ways. And I think it's caused him to become a very cynical figure. And what's shocking is that what comes out is redemptive. I mean, he was acting nobly in that instance and has been condemned for it ever since.
Jaime's always been a fascinating character because he's somebody who starts out in such an awful, seemingly unredeemable place. And by the time you get to this point in the story, you're really starting to see him as a person who's presented with a lot of advantages and also presented with some completely impossible choices that he was forced to make, and that have turned him into that seemingly unredeemable person who you thought you knew at the beginning of the story. And to me, that's one of the things that George does in the books so well that's most interesting, problematizing the idea of good guys and bad guys and refusing to let you rest on your laurels and the assumption that, well, this person threw a kid out a window, so obviously there's not a good bone in his body. And there actually is.
Já o Theon Greyjoy, que nasceu aqui nas Ilhas de Ferro, foi abduzido, capturado pelo Ned Stark e também pelo Robert Baratheon e foi criado em Winterfell. Mas ele nunca foi tido como um real Stark, até porque ele é um Greyjoy.
Let Theon, your servant, be born again from the sea as you were. Bless him with salt. Bless him with stone. Bless him with steel.
It
is dead may never die.
What is dead may never die.
He's expecting his father to accept him with open arms. He's just like, how can you even come back here and think that everything's okay now?
Stark had you longer than I did.
Lord Stark is gone.
And how do you feel about that?
I think part of him is kind of like, well, you know, you have to be true to your family, and Rob probably should have listened to Catelyn's advice and not been so dunderheaded as to send Theon Greyjoy off to Balon Greyjoy without expecting that Theon's loyalties might be compromised.
I think that Theon, the main driving compulsion at this point is to belong. And I think from the beginning, it's always been the thing he's wanted. This new way of looking at himself, this new unconflicted way of looking at himself is pushing every decision he makes.
I say the Starks, if you think you can hold the North with it...
You serve me as loyally as you serve Ned Stark. I will be as good to you as he ever was. Betray me, and you will wish you hadn't.
Theon Greyjoy passa por uma transformação muito abrupta e acaba conquistando o Winterfell, mas todos os seus traumas de infância e adolescência acabam voltando, quando ele não consegue superá-los, e aí ele passa por uma tortura e uma fase muito complicada ao lado do Ramsay Bolton.
Sorry. Were you sleeping? Water! You want some water? I wish I had some for you.
The idea that we had behind the whole Theon, the arc through the third season, was we really wanted the viewer to be in it with Theon and to not have any idea what was going on. We want people to be confused. We want people to be asking the questions that Theon is asking. Why is this happening to me? Who are you and what do you want?
You don't look like a Theon Greyjoy anymore. That's a name for a lord. But you're not a lord. Are you? You're just meat.
Theon has done terrible things, and there's this is a world in which there isn't really a moral calculus all the time, and the people who do terrible things seem to get away with them and even benefit from them, and although the reasons for it are unclear, as torture is obviously a direct repercussion of many of the horrible things Theon has done. Unlike someone like Joffrey, who I think you can say is a bad person, Theon isn't unambiguously a bad person in that way. His expression when he sees what he's done, you can see that it's just a piece of him dies when he sees that, and it pushes him even further into very dark psychological territory.
Ao longo de 3 temporadas, Theon é torturado por Ramsay das piores maneiras. Decapitações e torturas psicológicas causam danos mentais tão graves que a identidade de Theon é substituída pela de Fedor. Agora, o mais novo dos Greyjoy é uma pessoa aterrorizada, um servente fiel e temente ao seu mestre, capaz das maiores humilhações para evitar ser novamente torturado. Ao que tudo indica, Theon jamais poderá reverter a destruição que sofreu. No entanto, ele finalmente tem uma chance de se redimir.
My lady, I've come to escort you back to your chamber.
Go with her, please.
We've seen terrible things happen to Theon, and we've seen him refuse to rebel against his master time and time again. And then finally, in this moment, he does. And I think the great original sin in Theon's life was turning on the Starks and betraying them. And he's regretted it ever since. And now finally, after all this time, comes a chance for a little bit of redemption.
Let's begin.
Qualquer tipo de traição ou escorregão que um personagem comete em Game of Thrones normalmente traz uma consequência quase que imediata. E nas primeiras temporadas a gente teve um acontecimento que marcou muito a história da televisão, dá por assim dizer. E ela aconteceu bem aqui, a traição de Robb Stark em relação a um acordo que ele fez com o Walder Frey. O casamento vermelho começou exatamente ali naquela árvore, no momento em que o Robb se casa com a Talissa.
I wish that you were free to follow your heart.
I know.
You have inherited your father's responsibilities. I'm afraid they come at a cost. You are promised to another. A debt that must be paid.
I haven't forgotten.
Your Grace, my lady. News from Winterfell.
By the time Bolton's bastard got to Winterfell, the Ironborn were gone. They massacred everyone and put the castle to the torch. And Bran and Rickon have not been found.
Catelyn, ironically, very much like Cersei in this respect, her love for her family is first and foremost a love for her actual family, as opposed to the love for the family honor, the family history, the family legacy, the way it is for someone like Tywin Lannister. Catelyn's real response is that she is just pure shock and horror and dismay at the fact that her actual children have, in all likelihood, suffered a horrible fate.
Not only is that difficult, but I think there's a lot of self-blame. I mean, I think Catelyn really feels responsible for some of what happened. You hear that guilt coming out when she's talking to Talisa about, you know, the night where she stayed up late with Jon Snow.
I'd condemned this poor, innocent child to a horrible death. All because I was jealous of his mother. So I prayed to all 7 gods. Let him live. And I'll love him. I'll be a mother to him. I'll beg my husband to give him a true name. To call him Stark and be done with it.
And he lived.
And he lived. And I couldn't keep my promise. And everything that's happened since then, all this horror that's come to my family, it's all because I couldn't love a motherless child.
I think in his mind, they both made political mistakes, even though he's so glad he married Talisa and loves her so much. Certainly, politically, that was a bad move, and certainly in his mind, releasing Jaime was a terrible move. But now it's time to move on because they really only have each other. You know, these are the only 2 Starks together, and then he needs his mom's counsel at this moment, and he needs his allies more than ever, and he's got no stronger ally than his mother.
So Casterly Rock.
We have enough men?
If Walder Frey cooperates.
If Walder Frey cooperates. Show them how it feels to lose what they love.
Aliás, vários lugares dessa propriedade aqui, Castle Ward, que tem na Irlanda do Norte, onde a gente veio filmar o nosso especial, foram usadas para os acampamentos do Robb Stark e também do Tywin Lannister. Mas logo depois de todas essas batalhas onde foram usados esses acampamentos, a gente viu acontecer o Casamento Vermelho, que talvez tenha sido o momento que deixou Game of Thrones marcado para sempre. Mostrou para os espectadores que o George Martin não ia brincar com nenhum tipo de personagem e ele não perdoaria nenhum erro de trajetória desses caras, fosse homem, mulher, independente do gênero. E o Casamento Vermelho trouxe uma reação na internet que Game of Thrones não tinha até então. A primeira e segunda temporada mostrou uma série bem diferente em termos de narrativa, de produção, mas naquele momento a gente viu uma série que ia entrar de uma vez por todas para a história. E o Casamento Vermelho aconteceu aqui dentro, ó, nessa torre aqui na Irlanda do Norte, onde a produção da HBO usava para a casa dos Frey.
When we arrive at the Freys, Lord Frey wants to make sure that this wedding happens here and now, before we go back to war, or so that's what we're led to believe.
If you think the time is right, Lord Walder, by all means,
Let us bed them. As the bedding party exits, the lights dim.
Then literally as the door closes, the band strike up. And that is what makes Catelyn turn around and think, what is going on here? Something is about to happen.
Your Grace. I feel I've been remiss in my duties. I've given you meat and wine and music, but I haven't shown you the hospitality you deserve. My king has married, and I owe my new queen a wedding gift.
What we were hoping for with the scene is something similar where things seem to be going so well, and then it all takes a very dark turn. And as you say, doesn't end quickly. It's not all over in a hail of crossbow quarrels. It actually lingers, what we hope is for an uncomfortably long period of time.
I remember a high school teacher once talking to me about tragedy being not good versus evil, but good versus good, and what you do when you're faced with two conflicting goods, and the good of love against the good of honor and keeping your word. And Rob made a choice there, and it's taken a while, but he ends up paying for that choice in the worst possible way in this scene.
Lord Walter, enough! Let it end! Please. He is my son. On my honor as a Tully. On my honor as a Stark. Let him go, or I will cut your wife's throat.
That last shot of Catelyn standing there, almost wanted to just, you're kind of hoping for a cut to black. You just want it to be over because you're watching this woman that you care about so much in her absolute, the most horrible possible place. A mother having seen her own son killed before her eyes and having really nothing left to live for at that moment. You know, believing all her other sons are dead and presumably her daughters are dead, or at least in the grips of the Lannisters, and it's just all her husband has preceded her long before, and it's all over.
E como a gente falou no começo desse episódio, tudo que é feito em Game of Thrones tem uma consequência. Por mais que Catelyn e Robb tenham sido punidos com a vida pelos erros que cometeram, os Stark se redimem ao devolverem na mesma moeda o castigo que eles sofreram. Mas essa retratação só vem lá na 6ª temporada. No penúltimo episódio, Ramsay Bolton é capturado na Batalha dos Bastardos por Jon Snow e é dado aos próprios cachorros por Sansa.
Your words will disappear. Your house will disappear. Your name will disappear. All memory of you will disappear.
E lá no último episódio dessa temporada é a vez da Arya se infiltrar disfarçada na casa dos Frey e servir uma torta recheada com a carne dos próprios filhos a Walder Frey. E o mais incrível dessa redenção é que ela tinha sido antecipada lá na 3ª temporada, um episódio depois do Casamento Vermelho, e ela veio com uma descrição de um conto por Bran Stark.
You ever heard about the rat cook?
No? Who's he?
Just a cook in the Night's Watch. He was angry at the king for something, I don't remember. When the king was visiting the Nightfall, the cook killed the king's son, cooked him into a big pie with onions, carrots, mushrooms and bacon. That night, he served the pie to the king, who liked the taste of his son so much, he asked for a second slice. The gods turned the cook into a giant white rat, who could only eat his own young. He's been roaming the night fort ever since, devouring his own babies.
The gods turned every killer into a giant white rat.
It wasn't for murder the gods cursed the rat cook, or for serving the king's son in a pie. He killed a guest beneath his roof. That's something the gods can't forgive.
E no próximo episódio do nosso especial vamos mostrar as tramas políticas e todas as intrigas que acontecem nos corredores e nos campos de batalhas de Westeros.
Yes, Father, I'm guilty. Guilty. Is that what you want to hear?
A NET tem a maior plataforma de conteúdo e a melhor experiência para você que curte Game of Thrones. Você pode maratonar as 7 temporadas quantas vezes você quiser pelo Now. Pra ter NET com o HBO, vai lá no site e assina. E se você já é um NET, pode assinar HBO pelo controle remoto também.